Snark Squad, welcome back. Babes, it's Sunday, which is the messiest day in Bravo land. And babes, we are here.
The wine out, but frozen. Because babes, we needed a change, so yes, we put it in the Ninja slush. And no, this podcast is still not sponsored, Ninja.
Babes, slide into our DMs.
Let's be honest, we've been sipping this for a bit because we needed to get our minds mentally ready for summer.
I mean, I am completely just utterly obsessed. Like, do you understand? I am obsessed with this texture.
It is definitely a choice.
It's a lifestyle. But honestly, if you were sitting there right now with us, just, pretending your life is perfectly put together, you are lying to yourself.
Oh, completely.
We all need a little delusion to get through the week, right? And today, that delusion is taking the exact form of a slushie for adults.
Which is, frankly, just a Slurpee that makes you sleepy. Like,
Right.
I'm questioning the genius versus the chaos of this right now.
Are you judging my ninja slush?
I am questioning it, but I am fully participating in the delusion. Like, are we really just drinking adult Slurpees at noon? Yes. Yes, we are.
Exactly. It is the only way to survive the heat and, honestly, the absolute wreckage of the Bravo universe right now.
Yeah, the mental fortitude required to sit through this circus demands an ice-cold shock to the system.
It really, really does. And we need to talk about something before we even get into the recap today.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Cast shakeups. Because Babes Atlanta goes through the most.
It really does. It is just this constant revolving door of peach.
A revolving door. And I was thinking about this all morning, looking back at the Reddit streets and everything.
Right.
Who are some Atlanta housewives we did not think would make it past their first season?
Oh, the one-season wonders.
The ones where they stepped onto the screen and you immediately just thought, oh, honey, no, pack your bags.
Right, because this ecosystem will just chew you up and spit you out if you don't have the exact right alchemy of, like, narcissism and thick skin.
Exactly. Okay, I have to start with my emotional, totally vibe-based picks because, I just feel it through the screen.
You are very feelings-based, yes. Who is your number one?
My number one, Kim Fields.
Oh, wow. The Tootie era.
Listen, she never, ever seemed comfortable. From literally day one, she looked like she was at a party she was forced to attend by her mom.
She did always have her purse on her lap ready to go.
Always. Just waiting by the door. And do you remember that iconic Miami boat scene?
Vividly.
The girls are quite literally screaming at each other, like veins popping, throwing things, getting physical.
Someone threw an entire book overboard.
Yes. It was the absolute pinnacle of Atlanta conflict. And where's Kim Fields?
Sitting in the corner.
She is sitting there, physically removed, reading a book, reading on a boat.
A paperback novel.
While a literal war is happening. I knew in my bones it was doomed. You cannot, bring a Tupperware container of snacks to a gladiator arena.
No, you really can't. That's a brilliant way to frame it, actually. Reality television absolutely requires participation in the mud.
Yes. Get in the mud.
And by retreating into her little book, she was essentially breaking the fourth wall and saying, I am above this. And if you act like you're above the mud...
They will drag you into it.
Exactly. They targeted her husband relentlessly.
Or Christopher.
And when you don't have the venom to strike back, you are neutralized. You become prey.
Prey. Okay, my second pick is Deshawn Snow.
Taking us all the way back to season 1. Wow.
Deshawn was just, she was too sweet. And honestly, too rich for the rest.
She was very insulated by that money.
She had that massive, 30,000 square foot house, and her entire storyline was basically just HR.
Right, she was literally just interviewing estate managers.
Yes. Recruiting staff.
Yeah.
And throwing that lavish charity gala that raised literally $0.
She had to write the check herself at the end.
$0. It was fascinating, but she brought zero drama. Lovely woman, but lovely does not get you a contract renewal.
No, it really doesn't. You need grit. My picks are, a bit more analytical. I look at the strategy.
Okay, Mr. Strategy, who do you have?
I have to nominate Tanya Sam.
Oh, no, not Tanya. I love Tanya.
I know technically she was a friend of and never held a full peach, but analytically speaking, she was never built for the long haul.
I will not accept Tanya slander. She was fabulous.
Hear me out. Here's the mechanism of why she failed. She fled the absolute moment the heat got turned up.
Well, yeah, because Kenya.
The second those Bolo bachelorette party rumors hit the blogs, when the rumor mill suggested she was involved in the after-hours activities, what did she do?
She protected her peace.
She vanished. She stopped filming entirely. Once the overwhelming pressure of exposure hit her, she literally dipped in the night.
But wait, put yourself in her incredibly expensive shoes.
No.
Tanya had the cute tech money, the designer outfits. She was so sweet.
Pleasant doesn't equal longevity on Bravo.
Kenya's the one who played producer. Kenya brought the marching band and the megaphone and literally ran her off the show. Kenya ruined it.
Let's strip the emotion out of this. Yes, Kenya played producer, but Kenya did not open the door to that room with Bolo. Tanya made the conscious choice to participate in whatever happened, knowing she was surrounded by cast members and microphones.
It was a private party.
There is no such thing on reality TV. Tanya ran because she got exposed. If she had nothing to hide, the strategic move would have been to stay, look Kenya dead in the eye, and tell her to back off.
I still completely blame Kenya. She is poison, and Tanya deserved a real chance.
We are fundamentally divided on this, but my other pick for a one-season wonder you just knew wouldn't last, Shamea DeVoe.
Oh, wow, the open marriage reveal.
Exactly. She came in completely hot, dropping these massive personal reveals about her marriage right out of the gate.
She gave us so much so fast.
Too fast, because fundamentally, if you looked past the shock value of the open marriage, she was just a grounded family woman.
Right, she wasn't really a fighter.
She didn't fit the ruthless aesthetic. You have to be willing to slice and dice over a dinner table, and Shamea, despite getting heavily intoxicated and having some funny moments, just didn't have that assassin energy.
She really didn't. Okay, well, speaking of assassin energy, Snark Squad. We have been reading our DMs.
Oh, we have. The inbox is a very dark place right now.
And babes, the shady, the snarky, the stupid, you are sending them in, and babes, we need to discuss.
Let's analyze the damage. Read the first one.
Okay, submission 1. Imagine you are at this party. Babes, I went to a luxury $1,000 gift swap with my friend group, and one girl brought a cheap, lame gift that barely cost anything. Do I cut her off?
Stupid.
Yeah.
That is absolutely stupid on the part of the girl who brought the cheap gift.
Right, $1,000.
Look at the economic social contract here. If you are invited to a high roller event, a $1,000 buy-in, you are agreeing to a specific financial bracket.
Exactly. You don't show up with Bath & Body Works.
You do not show up with dollar store energy. It is disrespectful to the host. It's disrespectful to the guests who actually followed the rules. And frankly, it makes you look incredibly tacky.
It is so deeply embarrassing.
If you can't afford the buy-in, you just politely decline the invitation. Do you cut her off? Maybe. Don't block her number, but she is demoted. She is on the coffee date only roster from now on.
Demoted. I love that. It's giving Drew Sidora bringing a cheap pet bed to Cynthia's lavish event. Just zero social awareness.
Precisely. What's the next one?
Okay, submission 2. My bestie just got out of major reconstructive surgery. Instead of resting, she dragged her full glam squad to the hospital, got a full beat, and met us at the nail salon while literally leaking fluid. Should I tell her to go home?
Wow. The biological hazard alone?
My verdict, snarky. I say snarky because it is iconic diva behavior.
You cannot be serious.
Is it unhinged? Yes. But think about the commitment to be literally leaking bodily fluids from a surgical site and still demand a full contour and a mink lash before you step out.
I am looking at this from a purely logistical and sanitary perspective. You absolutely have to tell her to go home.
But the aesthetic.
That is a biohazard in a public commercial space. You are her best friend. Your job is to be the voice of medical reason when she is prioritizing highlighter over cellular healing.
You just don't understand the psychological armor of glam. If she looks good, she feels good.
A true friend tells you when you are actively endangering the manicurist.
Okay, well, submission 3,
Okay.
and this one. This one has me fully triggered.
Proceed with caution.
My friend hooked up with a dancer at a bachelorette party. Our other friend found out and exposed her to the entire group to ruin her reputation. Is the exposer toxic or just holding her accountable?
Ah, the Tanya and Kenya scenario repackaged and dropped right into our laps.
The exposer is TOXICAC, pure poison.
Really?
Yes. This makes me so intensely emotional because it is the exact definition of a horrible, unsafe friend. What happens at a bachelorette party is supposed to be locked in the vault.
Even with cameras? Or, well, in this case, other friends around.
You take it to the grave. To take that private, drunken information, weaponize it, and expose it solely to ruin someone's reputation.
Yeah.
That is sinister.
I have to push back incredibly hard on this.
No, listen.
Let's look at causality and environment. Your friend made the conscious choice to hook up with a dancer in a house full of other people.
Like they were friends.
In what universe did she calculate that this was going to stay a secret? You cannot behave recklessly in a group setting where there are multiple witnesses and then cry toxic when the group inevitably talks about it.
But she did it maliciously.
If you do not want to be exposed, do not commit the act in a high-risk environment. People love to use the word accountability as a weapon, sure, but often accountability only feels like an attack when you are entirely unready to acknowledge your own behavior.
But it's all about intent.
Yeah.
The exposer didn't do it for the noble pursuit of accountability. She did it for the malicious thrill of destruction.
The intent is secondary to the action.
She wanted to watch her burn.
The action still occurred. You can't be mad at the mirror for showing you your reflection, even if the person holding the mirror is smirking.
We are never going to agree on this. If you are listening to this right now, you have to decide. Hit our DMs. Is the exposer toxic, or is she holding her accountable? Because my blood pressure is officially elevated.
Let's bring the blood pressure down. Let's pivot to something that universally brings peace. Introduce the current snack situation.
Oh my God, yes. Lobster rolls.
Lobster rolls. Because, babes, if you haven't had one, REN.
I am fully, deeply obsessed. If you want to talk about luxury, a lobster roll is the epitome of decadent snacking.
It really is.
The warm, perfectly toasted, buttered split-top bun, the massive sweet chunks of claw meat. I am a warm, butter-drenched, Connecticut-style girl all the way.
See, I have to analytically rank the experience. Look, we all know the lobster roll is currently resting on menus at market price.
The dreaded market price.
Which is a culinary code for, we are going to rob you blind and you will thank us. Is it worth the hype? If the bread is soggy, absolutely not.
Never soggy bread.
But if it is executed correctly, yes. Let's look at what we are doing right now. Pairing a freezing cold, slushy texture ninja wine with a $40 market price lobster roll.
It is the duality of the human experience.
It is financial chaos mixed with culinary excellence. Peak weekend behavior.
Peak. And speaking of things that are incredibly messy, extraordinarily expensive, and sometimes really hard to swallow, it is time for the recap.
Yes. Season 17, Episode 3.
Rum, Ruptures, and Redemption. And I was quite literally screaming at my television from the very first minute.
Let's start right at the top. The hospital glam and the infamous puddle.
Hey, Michelle. She opens the episode with a gritty, intimate home video shot straight from her hospital bed.
Very raw footage.
She is recovering from a 2-hour reconstructive surgery. 2 hours. And we need to explain the why here. They had to go in and surgically remove infected necrotic tissue from illegal silicone butt shots and the inciting incident. She was at a country music awards show, and the site literally ruptured. She was bleeding fluid through her dress on a red carpet. It is terrifying.
It is a profound, incredibly dark medical cautionary tale. We have to look at the historical context of the early 2000s.
The basement injections.
Exactly. That was the era of hydrogel, of industrial silicone being pumped into women's bodies by unlicensed practitioners. What K. Michelle is demonstrating is the physiological consequence of that era.
It's so sad.
Illegal silicone isn't like a modern implant. It is literally like pouring wet concrete into a sponge. It hardens, it attaches to muscle fibers, and excising it requires a surgeon to literally cut out the healthy tissue along with the silicone.
That concrete and a sponge analogy literally makes my stomach turn.
It's a lifelong physical burden. She will always have microscopic particles embedded in her body.
But what had me absolutely yelling at the screen was the dynamic with her husband, Castine, in that hospital room.
Oh,
She is sitting in this sterile bed, in pain, trying to get her glam done to feel human, and she looks over at him, so vulnerable, and asks, "Do I look pretty?" And this man,
he doesn't even look up.
not even a glance.
He is sitting in the dark corner of the hospital room, illuminated only by his iPhone, looking like he hasn't slept in 6 days. He barely acknowledges his wife.
He gave me the chills.
He just gives this muted, exhausted grunt, zero warmth, zero active caretaking.
If I am bleeding from surgical drains, and I ask the man who vowed to love me if I look pretty, you better write me a Shakespearean sonnet on the spot.
Or at least put the phone down.
Right. But honestly, my ultimate obsession in this scene wasn't even the husband. It was the glam squad. She dragged a full hair and makeup team into a clinical hospital room.
Which is where I have to step back and question the fundamental logic. You just had infected tissue excised from your body. You were on heavy antibiotics.
But the cameras are rolling.
Why is the immediate priority a cut crease eyeshadow look? Why not just arrange for a private transport, go home, and let your cells heal? Bringing a glam squad to the ER is a massive misallocation of physical energy.
Because she is an icon. The camera is her boss. You cannot leave the hospital looking like a peasant when Bravo is filming.
It's medically inadvisable.
Which leads us perfectly into the absolute chaos of the nail salon scene. She leaves the hospital, and instead of going to bed, she literally hobbles into this Atlanta salon to meet Cynthia, Phaedra, and Porsha.
Let's set the staging of this scene. Cynthia glides in effortlessly, casual shoes, establishing her dominance as the returning friend of.
Yes, just observing the mice in the maze.
K. Michelle sits down, visibly in pain, and starts explaining the trauma of the awards show rupture. She says she stood up from her chair and she realized she was sitting in a puddle of fluid.
And then I physically cringed. I pulled my blanket completely over my head.
We all did.
Porsha Williams, in the middle of this busy nail salon, blurts out at maximum volume, "A miscarriage."
Just an absolute astonishing, deeply incorrect sequence of words.
I was screaming. I had to pause the TV. Who says that?
Let's analytically break down Porsha's brain for a second. There is absolutely no filter, no checkpoint between the synapse firing and the words leaving her mouth.
Zero filter.
It is a pinball machine with no flippers. She doesn't process environmental context. She hears the word puddle, associates it with her own internal database of medical emergencies, and just ejects the word into the atmosphere.
Okay, I have to defend Porsha slightly here. Just slightly.
Oh.
Because Porsha has suffered her own deeply devastating miscarriages on camera. She has spoken about waking up alone in a literal puddle of blood. Plus, she is a national spokesperson for the March of Dimes.
Okay, the advocacy is real, but...
So her entire life is wrapped up in maternal health. When you have that specific trauma and someone says puddle, your brain naturally bypasses logic. It wasn't malice, it was a trauma response misfiring.
I hear your empathy, but let's apply basic deductive reasoning. You knew she just had surgery on her backside.
I mean, yes, but...
Context clues are essential for functioning in society. They had actively discussed the BBL complications. The logical leap should not lead to a spontaneous obstetric emergency.
It was so cringe. And if you looked at K. Michelle's face, you could see her spirit leave her body. But she didn't check her in the moment. She just froze.
Exactly. Which brings us to the flawed strategy of the Twitter fingers. Instead of clocking Porsha right there, setting a boundary, K. Michelle internalizes the disrespect.
And takes it to the internet.
She goes home, opens the app, and starts rage tweeting about bimbos and being activated.
Is the love and hip-hop training coming out? She knows how to trim.
Yeah, but it's passive-aggressive. It avoids the direct face-to-face conflict Housewives requires. Though it successfully sets up a fantastic mediation scene for Cynthia.
Cynthia is earning every single cent of her paycheck. He brings them together for lunch and just surgically diffuses the bomb. She tells K. Michelle, look, Portia's just a dingbat.
A dingbat.
She speaks without malice. She wasn't trying to hurt you. She's just not bright enough to connect the dots.
And that precise framing leads to the sit-down apology. Porsha walks in, texting on her phone like a teenager, completely oblivious.
So oblivious.
K. Michelle confronts her. Porsha deploys the March of Dimes defense, which, from a PR standpoint, is bulletproof. She apologizes, and K. Michelle verbally accepts it.
But her body language. She accepted it very reluctantly. Her eyes were saying, I still despise you.
Because once a crash out, always a crash out, they put a flimsy Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Porsha is inevitably going to say something thoughtless again, and they are absolutely going to go to war again.
Oh, guaranteed. Speaking of things completely crashing and burning, Pinky Cole, babes. If you want to talk about the illusion of success, I was actively hyperventilating during her scene.
Pinky's scene with her lawyer, James Walker. This was arguably the heaviest, most consequential 5 minutes of reality television we have seen in years.
She is sitting in this dark law office, sobbing uncontrollably, and drops the absolute nuclear bombshell that she is filing for Chapter 11 personal bankruptcy.
Let's break down these insane numbers because it is staggering. She is in $20 million of debt. $20 million.
How does that even happen to a woman who sells vegan burgers?
She explains the catalyst. Her former CFO apparently embezzled money from the company.
Which is awful, but $20 million.
When a CFO steals, it destroys vendor relationships, unpaid taxes accumulate with penalties, and it triggers a massive cascade of financial defaults. But the fatal flaw is that she's signed as the personal guarantor for the business loans.
Explain that to me. What does it actually mean to be a personal guarantor?
It means she legally pierced the corporate veil herself. Normally, if an LLC goes under, creditors can only seize business assets. the deep fryers, the dining tables. You walk away with your personal life intact.
Right, that makes sense.
But banks will demand a personal guarantee from young entrepreneurs. By signing that paper, Pinky legally tied her personal assets to the corporate debts. It is the equivalent of tying a cement block to your ankle while swimming.
Oh my God.
The creditors come with legal authorization to seize your personal home, your car, your savings accounts. She is individually on the hook.
That makes my blood run cold. But it gets worse. She casually mentions she has a $100,000 lawsuit just for illegally airing a boxing match at her restaurant.
Yes, the strict enforcement of commercial broadcasting rights.
Who airs a pay-per-view fight without the commercial license? You cannot buy a $50 fight on your cable box and broadcast it to 200 paying customers.
A very expensive oversight that speaks to chaotic management. And she also mentions a $2 million liquor license dispute. It is a financial blast radius.
But the messiest, most anxiety-inducing detail. Her husband, Derek, does not know she is filing for bankruptcy.
That is the part that defies all marital and legal logic.
I am spiraling. How do you get dressed up, go on a date night, tell him he's your soulmate, and secretly hold the knowledge that you are tying his financial future to a $20 million sinking ship?
Especially without a prenup.
No prenup. His assets, his income, their shared home are incredibly vulnerable. How do you sleep at night knowing the marshals could show up at your door?
It is absolute madness. Hiding a $20 million Chapter 11 filing from your legal spouse is like trying to hide a blazing house fire from your roommate by throwing a small decorative blanket over it.
Yeah.
Babes, he is going to smell the smoke. You cannot hide a federal bankruptcy filing when you have commingled assets. The fact that she is crying on national television before she has had a sit-down conversation with her husband, terrifying reality TV.
I cannot handle the anxiety of it. I wanted to reach through the screen and shake her.
Well, speaking of wives aggressively hiding massive financial decisions from their incredibly famous husbands.
Yes, the segue is flawless. Angela Oakley.
Angela takes her 25-year-old daughter, Amari, on a little field trip to see a new investment house she just secretly bought in Decatur.
And I was screaming at the television because this house, it cost $159,000 or $180,000, depending on the confessional, but it looked like the set of a post-apocalyptic horror movie.
It was a profound structural teardown. It barely qualified as a dwelling.
Amari is walking through this rotting shack, pointing out that there are massive, terrifying spiders everywhere. She literally called them anacondas crawling on the walls. There is a randomly dumped, filthy car tire sitting in the overgrown backyard. The floors look like they would cave in. It is a complete disaster.
Let's analytically break down the Oakley family finances. Last year, Angela lost $2 million
$2 million
of her own liquid cash, burned on 4 spectacularly failed house flips. Her husband, NBA legend Charles Oakley, sat her down and explicitly told her to stop. He instituted a hard boundary.
He said no more real estate?
So what does she do? She immediately goes behind his back and buys another decaying flip house without telling him.
Charles even says in the flashback the other 4 didn't get flipped. He is fully in his I told you so era.
Because she fundamentally refuses to listen to reason. She thinks a spider-infested shack is going to be her redemption arc. It is the textbook definition of the sunk cost fallacy.
But you have to understand the deep, raw, emotional why behind her actions. I got so emotional during her confessional.
The grief aspect.
Yes. Her mom passed away suddenly. She lost the 4 properties. She lost her mother. And she is actively drowning in an ocean of grief. She feels like she desperately needs just one win to close out a horrific chapter.
I understand that.
She's buying this house to lick her wounds.
Yeah.
It's a purely emotional purchase. She wants to fix the house because she can't fix her grief.
Which is an incredibly human response, but exactly why you should never buy real estate when you are in mourning. Grief is a demonstrably terrible financial advisor.
I know, but it's so sad.
You do not heal the trauma of losing your mother by secretly buying a spider house against your husband's wishes. That is going to create a massive marital crisis. You cannot flip your way out of depression.
It's so deeply sad. But editors pivot us from that profound sadness to someone whose business venture is just pure comedy, Shamea.
Shamea's rum-bum business pitch. I will confidently introduce this as the absolute worst business idea pitched on television in the current fiscal year.
A peach-flavored rum line.
Yeah.
Based in Grenada. Just sit with that sentence.
She sets up a Skype meeting with these serious, beverage executives in Grenada, and she confidently declares she wants the custom glass bottle to be molded to the exact anatomical shape of her actual butt.
I am dying of secondhand embarrassment. I am deceased.
She proudly announces she wants to call it rum bum to give a new meaning to ass shots.
No, stop it. No one wants to pour sticky liquor out of a glass replica of your posterior at a dinner party. It is so unbelievably tacky.
But here is the logistical nightmare that elevates us from tacky to fundamentally absurd. She adamantly wants the rum to be peach-flavored.
Because she's a Georgia peach.
Right. But the executives have to gently explain to her that peaches do not naturally grow in the tropical volcanic climate of Grenada. To achieve this flavor, they will have to artificially import industrial drums of raw peach syrup onto the island. The cost, $30 per unit in overhead costs just to get the syrup through customs.
$30?
$30 in sunk costs before you even distill the sugarcane or manufacture the ridiculous butt glass.
It is an absolute economic disaster. And her husband, Gerald, who is funding this lifestyle, he is sitting next to her on this Skype call, watching his money burn.
Gerald is the only person anchored to reality. He asks valid business questions about import tariffs and distribution costs. He gets absolutely no coherent answers.
None.
And what does he do? He literally stands up and walks away from the camera. He abandons the Skype call.
He was like, I cannot attach my professional name to this foolishness.
It is the classic housewives gimmick business, right up there with Meredith Marks's bathtub caviar or a She by Cherie. The unit economics are laughable. She's trying way too hard to manufacture a storyline.
Which brings us perfectly to someone else who is trying way too hard, Drew Sidora.
The infamous hookah lounge date.
I have to vent about Drew because the math is confusing me. She has been going through this incredibly messy divorce from Ralph for 3 whole years.
3 years of legal filings.
She's crying about mommy guilt, saying her kids are acting out, complaining about paying legal bills. And then she goes on this wildly staged date with a man named Blakk Tatted.
Let me rip into the aesthetics of this date. Blakk shows up to this neon-lit hookah lounge looking like an unpaid extra in a to-be romance movie.
The unbuttoned shirt.
He is wearing a leather button-down shirt, completely unbuttoned, boldly exposing his bare stomach to the camera crew. And he brings a dozen red roses. Not for Drew, but for Drew's young children.
It was so incredibly cringy. And the dialogue. He tells Drew she isn't girlfriend material. She is wife material.
Which sounds nice until he ruins it.
Yes. He says he needs the partner, Ralph, to get out of the way because Drew is an investment that has already been invested in and he needs to take over the investment.
It is the most coldly transactional, gross way to describe a human woman. You are not a real estate portfolio.
I think Blakk is just an opportunist running game on a highly vulnerable woman. She is 3 years into a toxic divorce, her self-esteem is on the floor, and she is entirely starved for basic affection.
Or, let's look at the meta-narrative. She is fully aware of the game and playing along for the cameras.
You think it's fake?
I completely agree with the Reddit analysts. Allegedly, Drew only makes $140K a year from Bravo. She has to maintain a housewife's lifestyle and pay exorbitant attorney fees.
True.
She needs to secure her peach to survive financially. She needs a storyline that isn't just crying in her kitchen. Blakk Tatted feels 100% like a production plant. The relationship feels forced, staged, and designed solely so she doesn't get demoted.
She looked like she was blushing for real.
But okay, the most absurd side plot of this entire episode, Phaedra's meat rumors.
This is where the show leans into its roots as a pure comedy of manners.
Phaedra is allegedly spreading malicious rumors that Pinky Cole secretly eats meat, which is a direct hit at Pinky's corporate brand, considering she's the founder of a vegan empire and sits on the board of PETA.
But the retaliation. Pinky doesn't put out a polite PR statement. She goes absolutely nuclear and tells the group that Phaedra eats dead people at the morgue.
The escalation is breathtaking.
She literally shouts, "I don't trust a lawyer who eats dead people." And then K. Michelle tags in with the fatal blow. "I don't trust a lawyer who doesn't practice law."
It is the perfect distillation of housewives logic. We are watching women navigate actual crises like bankruptcy, having a proxy war over cannibalism and deli meats.
It truly is. Okay, transition time. Segment 1, biggest shakeup energy. Out of everyone who understood the assignment.
I am nominating K. Michelle without hesitation. Analytically, she understood that as a new addition, you hit the ground sprinting.
She really did.
You don't just quietly survive a botched surgery. You weaponize your pain for the camera. You bring a glam squad to the ER. You limp into a nail salon, drop a visceral puddle anecdote, and start a Twitter war calling a veteran a bimbo. That is how you secure a peach.
But for me, The biggest shakeup energy goes to Pinky Cole. Think about the bravery. To come onto national television with a huge Forbes reputation and tearfully admit you are $20 million in debt.
It's a huge risk.
To confess you are hiding a bankruptcy from your husband with no prenup? That is terrifying. She didn't hide behind a fake storyline. She put her actual burning life on the table. I respect the hustle so much.
Moving on to segment 2, messiest moment. What single event had you screaming?
Oh, we agree on this. It is 100% Porsha Williams asking a miscarriage. Call it out UT, the absolute lack of social grace. It was so offensive and so devastatingly messy.
A verbal car crash. But I want to add a secondary messy moment. Shamea running to Pinky like a gossiping middle schooler to tattle that Phaedra said she eats meat.
Oh my God.
Babes, we are grown women fighting over whether someone had a secret turkey sandwich. It was wonderfully messy.
Segment 3. Who is trying too hard? Be honest. Who is forcing it?
You start.
Drew Sidora. The whole date with Blakk feels entirely staged and fake. He's calling her an investment, and she's trying to sell this innocent narrative while technically still married. She is forcing this subplot because she desperately needs screen time.
I agree, but I am going to nominate Shamea's rum bum venture. It is financially illiterate. You cannot pitch a product where the vessel is a glass mold of your gluteus maximus filled with a flavor that requires a $30 import tariff.
Even the distillation lawyer looked confused. Okay, final segment. Segment 4, Atlanta icon status. Who is earning their place and who is not?
Cynthia Bailey is undeniably earning it. She's executing the role of friend of with surgical precision. She stirs the pot subtly, mediates the apology, keeps the story moving, and never gets her hands dirty. Top-tier veteran behavior.
But babes, I am deeply disappointed in who is not earning it. Phaedra Parks.
The self-proclaimed shade assassin.
Supposedly. Everyone is clocking her. What does she actually do? She just sits in the corner, makes exaggerated facial expressions, and giggles. Her only contribution is whispering that Pinky eats meat.
The morgue business must be slow.
She needs to get in the mix or clock out and give her peach to someone hungry for it.
Okay, if you have made it this far, take a deep breath. We have navigated $20 million bankruptcies, $2 million real estate losses, 2-hour surgeries, and 3-year divorces.
Frozen wine chaos, DM drama, lobster roll luxury, and pure Atlanta madness.
The sheer toll required to entertain us is staggering.
So who shocked you the most this season? Is it Pinky's secret debt or Angela's spider-infested house?
And are you team shady, snarky, or stupid when it comes to bringing a cheap gift to a luxury swap?
And Babe's frozen wine, yes or no? Because I'm telling you, the ninja slush is life-changing.
Remind time. Rate, review, subscribe. Send those messy submissions to our DMs.
Send this episode to your most dramatic friend, the one who needs an intervention. Thank you to the Snark Squad for riding with us.
Stay shady.
Stay iconic, and we'll see you on the Snark side.